Is this thing working? Is this, I think we're live. We're live. What's happening, everybody? I hope you're having a fantastic watching this. So, bit of an open chat tonight. I haven't been too overwhelmed with any news from any particular Mopar channel. There are some things, I guess, to chat about, but really not a whole lot of it. A lot of it is centered around Mopar centric stuff. And guys, I got to tell y'all something. I don't know if the coals are still warm here. You know, with all of the sort of leaked information that we got hit with, and when I say all of it, I think it was a grand total of what, 4 pictures, something like that. With whatever it was that we got hit with from Dodge that really did not at all give us much to work with. Really all we have to do is talk about trucks, and I'm kind of curiouser and curiouser with the truck idea more so than I am with the car. And I guess the reason for that is, well, trucks are a lot more relatable. Trucks are a lot more realistic in terms of being utilitarian, and well, it's a part of everyday life for many, many, many people. And, you know, sports cars really aren't. But the new power plant is doing something for me when we're talking about the trucks. And so I want to get y'all's opinion of that. You know, we've got what, about 6 months until we finally land on that Hurricane 6 powered Ram 1500. Which Ram do you get though? This is where things kind of get weird and exciting for me because, well, you can only get the high output version in an all-wheel or four-wheel drive configuration. Now, that's pretty cool, but I just kind of wonder, what would the two-wheel drive version look like with that engine? I guess I'm wondering, could I do a Stormy 2.0 with the standard output? Freaking A, man. So think about that for a minute. 420 horsepower. In essence, it's about 25 horsepower more than what the 5.7 Hemi is making now. But that is not the real party trick here, guys. The real party trick is the torque number. And I think this is where it's almost too easy to look past the standard output engine and look at the HO motor. I think the standard output engine may actually be the one to get. Now, let me walk you through some of my logic with this. If the transmission tune is as good as, well, as that Grand Wagoneer that I drove, if it's that good, and it's got a sport mode, I should really be more specific here, and you can use 469 pound-feet of torque in a two-wheel drive truck, that's a lot of power, guys. And it's a lot of power that, at least in my experience with that HO motor, just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. I do know that the standard output engine makes its power lower in the RPM range. So I don't know if there's a direct correlation with performance to that Hemi, but if 469 pound-feet of torque has anything to say about it, that would be a pretty lively truck. Now, in essence, you're looking at about a $5,000 or $6,000 spread between a four-wheel drive truck and the HO motor, and a two-wheel drive truck and the standard output motor. I think you have to make the play for the all-wheel drive. Sam's in. What's up, man? Saying, yo, B, saying, I hope it just sounds better than the EcoBoost. Well, you know, inline sixes have a tendency to sound really good, especially when they're uncorked. So I can't imagine it would sound bad. And I'm thinking here, guys, I really am torn a little bit, but I think I'm going to end up getting a truck, and I think it's going to be a Lone Star Edition four-wheel drive with the HO6. I think that's really the right play. And it'll in essence be Stormy 2.0. I think that would be a very fun truck. It would be fast. I mean, it would be legitimately quick just driving the thing around in general. But I'm just curious as to what that truck is going to end up landing at when it comes to price. And to be fair, guys, I don't know. This is going to hurt to say, but I don't know if it would be a long-term play. I guess the reason why I'm saying that is when you look at, well, what could end up being questionable, and I use that kind of loosely, but first year run, right? You don't ever want to buy that first year run, but that engine has been out in the Grand Wagoneer for a minute. So I don't know. Sam saying, I think the standard output and HO are the same motors with a different map. Actually, they are not, my friend. There are some differences. Primarily, most notably, at least most conspicuously, is the compression ratio. The standard output, believe it or not, has a higher compression ratio than the high output. I believe it's 10.2 with a question mark for the standard output and 9.5 for the HO motor. So there is that. There could be some injector variances and things like that, but I do know that there is difference there. My understanding also is that the HO motor gets a lot of forged internals. There's some, at least they share the same crank. I want to say they share the same rods. The pistons are going to be different though. And I think the HO motor has a higher quality forged piston, but that's not to say there's anything wrong with the standard output. So there is that. Skids is then saying, what up, B? Oh, I got the flex and the bald guy with the shades. Hey, Skids, just got a quick FYI. I just got back from running the bike with the 16-tooth front sprocket. Kawasaki needs to rethink how they geared that bike and put a 16-tooth front sprocket in it. It'll still float the front tire in first gear, no problem. Accelerates harder and will get to 130 plus miles an hour far easier and far quicker. Now, the bike is actually faster with less aggressive gearing. I will go on record as saying that. So absolutely freaked me out. The bike is actually running on bar now with that Daytona. So score one for the Cowie boys there. At least when you put a 16-2 sprocket and a Street Meg Brox full exhaust and an Ivans tune and a G2 quick throttle. Yeah, she's a ripper now. But guys, seriously, I think that's the route that I was going to go. Initially, I was thinking I would save the money, go with the standard output, and just get Stormy 2.0 and enjoy another, 70 foot-pounds of torque. But I have to say that extra 70 foot-pounds of torque does me no good if I'm trying to cut a number out of that thing, because I can't get it. Will not hook on the street. Forget about it. It ain't going to happen. So I think what I will probably end up doing is I will get some Buffy 2.0. It's going to be like Buffy Stormy. I would call her Cloudy. And I think I'm going to get either a gray or a white one and just swap the built to serve wheels over to it. I think that's really going to be the right way to go. So, Skid saying, dang, ready to do some damage? Brother, I just had that bike out. So I spent a lot of time today playing with motorcycles, which was, it's always a good thing. Spent some good quality time with the Daytona, which always puts me in a cool mood. But in riding the Daytona, the big takeaway from the Daytona was, damn, the Cowie should run like this, but the gearing is just inappropriate for the power band of that bike. And because they do share the same displacement, roughly the same power band, they make about the same torque. How do they not? Why is it that the Daytona just always felt significantly faster than the Cowie? Well, I can tell you might be something to do with engine output. The Daytona might have it just a little bit on power, but the Kawasaki's lighter. But the reality is that the gearing was just wholesale inappropriate for the Kawasaki. And I'll even go on board as saying that I probably could have put a 17 tooth in the front of that thing and have it still be okay. But the 16, perfect. It'll still float the front tire. I can roll out, get into wide open throttle. It'll start to float the front tire, goes into interrupt. Right as it goes into interrupt, I can grab second. It'll shimmy because it'll spin a little bit in second. She sits right down and I can just row through the gears. The bike is absolutely spot on, dead nuts, perfect. I don't have to shift gears coming through an intersection. So very happy with that. Sam's asking a good question. It's a question that I had too. I wonder if the Hurricane will make its way to the Jeep Wrangler. That would be a very interesting build. That would be a very appropriate build, Sam. And I'll take it a step further. Even if it's not in 420 horsepower guys, because I can understand why some people would say that they would prefer to have an engine that makes power earlier on, even though the standard output makes peak power at 5,200. If it did make it to the Wrangler in some way, I think that it should and it needs to, because in my personal opinion and everybody else's personal opinion that has driven that vehicle, it is grossly underpowered. And then they put the 392 in it like it's supposed to be something neat. No, either put a Hemi in it or put the Hurricane in it. Get that crappy that 3.6 liter out of the Jeep, because the 3.6 liter, we're talking about a motorcycle being inappropriately geared. The 3.6 liter V6 is an inappropriate engine for the type of vehicle that the Jeep is. There is nobody that can ever tell me that I am wrong in that assessment, because I have driven that vehicle and it, how many S's, sucks to drive. There's no torque, no nothing in that thing. Skid saying supposed to be 60s tomorrow up here in DFW. Looking forward to getting the bikes out, giving them the beans. I like it. Yes. I was able to have some fun with the Daytona today. You know, it always buzzed that bike. My dad had a rule. Every time he rode or drove anything, it saw 100 miles an hour at least once. And so I take that to heart. So, yeah, I buzzed. The Daytona was cruising at $120, $110, $120. And the Cowie now is really comfortable in fifth gear, and using sixth gear as an overdrive, but fifth gear, it just 110, 120, 130, and then I'm just rolling back out of it. That thing is running so well. I could not ask for better out of either one of those two bikes. And they're such neat bikes to ride. I just blessed to have them both. Similar power, similar a lot of things, but yet still so completely different. So yeah, get out there and have some fun, my friend. I was going to say, just low down torque alone from the 6 would make great sense in the Wrangler. Man, even if you detuned it, let's say, for example, that you pull the boost back a little bit and remap the cams to where they would be wider down low or just the same, whatever, ramp up tight, advanced tight LSA, and then just don't ramp them back as far, keep the boost down a little bit. I think it would be great. I don't see any reason why that wouldn't be an amazing setup for the Jeep. If somebody can tell me why it wouldn't be, I'd fill my brain with your understanding, because I don't have it. I'm saying just last week, bought a Honda Pioneer, already thinking it was thinking of ways to make it scary fast. Nice. Oh, Daniel's saying I had a 98 Cherokee XJ40. Awesome vehicle, dude. I had a my Cherokee wheel. It's an older one. It's an 84, but yeah, loved it. 4.0, always satisfied with the power. The 4.0 is good. 4.0 is a good engine. The 3.8 is actually, if I were to pick a V6 for the Jeep, it would be my wife's 3.8 liter Wrangler. That thing it's nothing but torque. It's just the horsepower comes as an accident with that engine, but you step on the gas, it's immediately responsive. And I need to re-gear that thing now that I'm thinking about it. But anyway, yeah, that's something that I would highly recommend. Would be to have something along the lines of a 3.8 torque with just maybe some more power to help it along for the, the guys that are going to put wheels, big wheels and tires. Did that to my wife's Jeep too. Anyway, you get the idea. Don Powers. Hello, Mr. Mason. Speaking of bikes. Yeah, speaking of bikes. So your boy never got back. So clock's ticking. Let's see. But yeah, the Cowie's doing well. Daytona's doing unbelievably good, guys. The guy, listen, Triumph Houston has really been taking care of me. And for you guys that are into the bikes, the Bonneville is getting the X pipe. I'm not going to do a full exhaust on the Bonnie. It really doesn't need it, in my opinion, until I get a wild hair at my ass, and it does. But it's getting the X pipe, a tune, tail tidy. What else did I do to it? Let's see. Tail tidy tune. What else was I getting done? Because of the off-road pipe. That's pretty much it. Anyway, I've been spending a lot of time on the Bonneville, and I was able to meet some guys today out at a meet that I was fortunate enough to go to before I went and filmed the Scrambler video. Talked to some guys about their results with their Bonneville-based motorcycles, and just went ahead and pulled the trigger, and we're going to get that little Bonneville hot rodded properly. So I am really, really looking forward to it. In fact, I got to say this, as much as I have enjoyed the Daytona, and guys, I'm telling you, that thing is running so good. And the Kawasaki now is running properly right. How the hell that motorcycle did not have that 16-tooth front sprocket, I'll never understand it. I kind of do understand it because of the mission statement of that bike, but now that it's got 16 with the power that it's making now, it's much more appropriate. Matter of fact, what I'm going to do, a follow-up video on that, is I'm gonna just admit that it is much more like it was stock now with 16-tooth front sprocket, and how I can float the tire and then row through the gears. That is practically identical to stock. It's just doing it with, that 18% more horsepower that I'm putting to the rear tire now, which picking up 18% is a lot. And that's what we're sitting at with that bike. So, let's see. Skids, the 4.0 is good for torque, not so much for horsepower. I had the 97 Grand Cherokee, could pull our pop-up camper well, but as far as horsepower, kind of a dog. Yeah, but for me, the 4.0 is neat because it would just trudge. It would just, it was like a freaking, it was like a tugboat motor in that thing. And I love stuff like that. Don, you read your text? Yeah, tell them to give me a holler tomorrow, man. Sam saying, the 3.0 has a chance to be the next 4.0 and 226, but I'll leave that. Leave it at that. Hopefully they'll put it in the Jeep and keep it paired with a 6-speed swap potential. I'll tell you what, I can only look forward to the future when it comes to Dodge right now. Mopar in general, I can really, really want something to be a certain way, but I've got to understand that there are some realities that we're going to end up continuously getting faced with. Here's what I would like to see, as weird as this may sound. So we've got the 3.0 HO and we've got the 3.0 SO. You know what I would really like to see, and I think you guys already know where I'm going with this. I would love to see if they can make a stroker variant of the 3.0, have it be like a 3.6 with about 10-to-1 compression, naturally aspirated, something in that 280, 290 horsepower range, but variable, independently variable cam profile. So in other words, variable profile, cam profile with that DOHC setup that they've got. That would be crazy awesome. The reason why is you would get the lightweight of the engine. So you'd still keep a lightweight engine, but you would have an engine that would give small V8 torque with proper small V8 horsepower in that Jeep, and thinking kind of old school power ranges, but paired up with an 8-speed transmission. If that were to be a possibility, and who knows if it is, but if it could be, I think we'd really be looking at a winner with that. Skids have not seen the dirt bikes from Triumph yet. They are coming. Matter of fact, they should be landing at the dealership, I think, in March or April. Stoked for those. Also went by Harley Davidson yesterday, dude. The new 24 Road Glide CVO ST 121 is killer. Yes, 127 horsepower, 145 pound-feet of torque. That 121 is a big-time power maker. Very cool to see that. And hopefully, speaking of big-time power makers, if I can work out a deal, there may be another T-Bird in the fleet, because I kind of want a Storm, and I kind of want to do a build on a Storm. It's not the exact setup that I want, but if the price is right, I may go ahead and pick that up. So another T-Bird, another Triumph T-Bird could potentially make it to the fleet if things work out. Sam said, I've been looking at used Teslas. I can't believe a 1-year-old Tesla Plaid takes about 50% depreciation hit. My man, Sam, I tell you something. The problem with the EVs is they have a horrific resale outlook forecast. That it doesn't look good. And the more people are having problems with those vehicles, the worse, and I mean worse, it's looking for them. So you guys know the story of the one that I saw. I was taking a client out to lunch and happened to park next to an F-Type that looked, the inside of that thing looked like it smelled like, shit diapers and Cheerios, man. It was bad. And anyway, there's some of the cool factor of EVs is starting to go away. The realities of EVs are really starting to hit home. It's winter time. And so you guys undoubtedly have seen, some of the issues that some of the EV drivers have had with charging stations not being operable and all of that. So it's not cool. Stuff that runs on batteries does not like low temperatures. It doesn't like wide temperature variations. And I feel for the folks, man. If people bought them because they thought that for whatever reason it was going to help them, I don't know, save the whales or whatever. I don't know. There's too many realities. I think the realities are starting to come home to roost with EVs. This is stuff, guys, I've been talking about for years, and it has nothing to do with me being the smartest guy in the room. It's just my experience with RC stuff. I know the life cycle of RC products, and I know how the two can kind of correlate a little bit. I mean, it is a battery, a speed controller, an electric motor, but it's the battery technology that I'm most familiar with. And, you can't treat something that runs on a product that relies on some really twitchy elements. You can't really rely on that long term, right? So we'll see. But I mean, it just goes to show you the public acceptance of electric vehicles is getting worse in many areas, not better. Skid saying battery degradation. Yeah. Even a year later, there's a lot of folks that are, they're catching on to that part of it too, guys. Snaky's asking, do you still miss your Hellcat or not at all? Not at all. I don't even think about that car. And I know that's going to sound kind of lousy. Plus it's kind of, it reeks of BS because that's my thumbnail. I don't think about it really because I've got other things that I'm working on. But if I'm being completely transparent here, one of the reasons why I don't really miss it is because the prospect of something going completely wrong with that car, although improbable because it was more or less a stock car and I wasn't really spinning it that high. In fact, there's a lot of things about that car that would have kind of fallen into the guise of stock because it basically was a lot of stock stuff, stock boost, all of that. I don't really miss it because if something were to go wrong with that car, that's not a small dollar sign fix. The worst part about that car was that it was going to be a 5-figure situation if something went wrong with it. And the more I got to looking at it, I was thinking, it's not worth it. At some point, your risk reward ratio, that scale, it's always starting to drop. There's nothing you can do. As time goes by, risk reward starts to take over, and it had passed an imaginary line as the scale tipped over. I don't know what that line was, but it hit it, and it was a real emotional disconnect that hit me. I don't really want to say it was around the time that I lost my dad, but there was a point that leading up to that, I was already kind of starting to shy away from it. But realistically, I had to take a look at the realities of what kind of hole that car represented in terms of finances. And people just aren't that interested in Hellcats. I enjoyed the car. I like the car a lot, but issues with build quality, issues with fit and finish, electrical issues that car was having. The list goes on, and unfortunately it went on, and which straw was the one that just stopped the camel dead in its tracks, couldn't tell you. But whatever it was, it had been sitting there for a while because there was nothing wrong with the car. The car was running extremely strong, but again, you get to a certain point with a vehicle and you have to immediately, when it hits you, you have to immediately act upon that, because that's your real truth coming up, and you don't want to try to duck or dive or get around it. So, let's see. Sam saying my thing is the fact that it's a 50% depreciation hit, my opinion, at 50% depreciated prices where they should sell for new. That's actually a very valid point. Matter of fact, I don't understand why they sell for as much as they do, because all the damn thing is a speed controller, a battery, and motors. There's some software in there to do some torque vectoring, which is one of the neat party tricks that you can do with an electric vehicle you cannot do with a gas powered vehicle. But it's ancient technology, guys. This is nothing new. People that talk about EVs like there's something new, this is a neat, innovative. No, freaking hell no, man. EVs are the oldest technology. This is nothing. Nothing is new. Nothing is interesting. Anybody that thinks that EVs are the latest thing, they're absolutely, completely, and totally misinformed. EVs have been around longer than the internal combustion engine. They've been around and utilized in cityscapes far more efficiently than internal combustion engine, even to this day, could ever be. They have their place. They have their place, and they deserve to have their place, because what works for some doesn't work for another. The same thing works in engineering. What works in a certain environment doesn't work in others. And this is another thing. Critical thinking has completely left the chat when it comes to people when they talk about EVs. There are areas where they do well. There are areas where they completely suck, and you shouldn't own one. I think if you live north of the Mason-Dixon line, you probably shouldn't own an EV. It gets too damn cold, and batteries, they don't like them some cold at all. The thing is that a battery, when we're talking about a solid cell battery, or any battery for that matter, it's dependent upon temperature because it is a chemical process. What you have to remember about batteries, and just this is just kind of FYI, so you can explain this to somebody when their stupid mouth starts talking, when they think they know what they're talking about. Batteries are not a vessel the way that this water bottle is a vessel. This could represent gasoline, for example. When this bottle is empty, fill it up full of gasoline, and now we have more gasoline. The gasoline doesn't care what temperature it is, provided that it doesn't freeze into a solid or boil into a gas. It will always be gasoline and it will always burn, and its stoichiometric value will always be the same. If it's colder, you just need more gasoline to get to a stoichiometric or a power enrichment mixture. And if it's hot, you need less. If the elevation is high, you need less gas because you got less air. If it's low, you need more. Super simple. Problem is, that ain't how electricity works. There's nothing to fill up. You don't take, when a battery loses charge, it doesn't drain out the electrons and then you fill it back up with electrons per se, right? I mean, in other words, you can't poke a hole in a battery and siphon out electrons. That's not how these things work. It's a chemical process. And chemical processes in general slow down when they get cold. They speed up when they get hot. This is why batteries, if they get too hot, can experience what's known as rapid thermal decompression, or decomposition, I should say. Rapid thermal decomposition is to say that that is when they explode / catch on fire. In other words, they are reacting in an uncontrolled way. It's the predicate, it's a predecessor. You can think of it like a fire before there's a fire, like an appetizer. It's an appetizer burn before the thing goes fully thermal decomposition. Anyway, that's why the batteries, when they go through heat cycles, they can break down. Think of it like anytime you've got a tomato. This is good. I know, just what the frick is he talking? You ever freeze a tomato and it's kind of like weird and kind of mushy, and then you thaw it out, right? But you freeze it again and it's worse, and you take it out, thaw it out, you freeze it again, it's like this puddle of shit, right? It's kind of the same thing inside the battery, not to that extent, but it will over time lose its capacity, and it's much more sensitive to cold. And again, people are figuring that out. It's like, guys, us in the hot rod industry have been telling y'all this since jump. We've been trying to get y'all to understand that we love EVs too. We want to make them go fast. Shit, you give me an EV. I've been trying to figure out a way to incorporate a series of capacitors for EVs that would work exactly like nitrous oxide for an EV. I want to make these things haul ass and go fast. That's kind of the thing that I like to do. But I just, you can't buy them thinking that they're going to be like, I don't know, some kind of virtue signal, because they're actually the exact opposite. Skid saying, yep, freezing temps don't fare well with EVs at all. We'll see if life cycle of our phone batteries. Duh. Yeah, no kidding. Daniel's saying, I left a phone in a car at a state fair and the battery never kept the charge again. Yep, it overheated. I wonder if the same happens in extreme heat with EV batteries. Happens with all batteries. Matter of fact, that battery that you have in your phone is probably a lithium ion. You have different kinds of lithium batteries. Lithium is a very good product for a battery. It does well with exchanging handshaking electrons. So it's a twitchy material though. And when it gets hot, it flash fires and it looks like a magnesium fire when it goes off. Eerily enough, it also reacts with water. Anyway, long story short, yeah, anytime you overheat or freeze a battery one way or another, you can potentially sting it. No doubt about it. Samson, Stream needs to make a comeback now, just like the new EV. X is saying, I wonder how long EV trucks are going to be a thing. Not for very long, I'm sure. EV trucks can't tow half as well as diesel or gas trucks as far as range. No, they can't. So why manufacturers are investing in EV trucks doesn't make any sense. Concur. I don't know. It's an improper use of the technology. Unless you're talking about big rigs. Let me explain to you why. That a truck, first of all, it's battery, the size of the battery, right? And think of a battery. Another way you can also think of a battery, just trying to help, explain this to you guys. So think of a battery like a pot of hot water versus a swimming pool versus of hot water. If you expose both a pot of boiling water and something the size of like a hot tub of the same temperature water, to freezing temperatures, the pot is going to freeze presumably much more quickly, right? Because there's much less thermal energy. It's the same thermal density, right? Because it's both water. But much more of the surface area of that small pot is going to be exposed versus the large pot, hot tub, whatever it was. So a battery's a lot the same way. And a large truck can carry, in essence, more weight in batteries. But here's the problem with the trucking thing, and this is where there's a fallacy in that logic. In trucking, your primary objective is to move lbs, kgs, okay? You're there to move weight, but you have limitations. And a 40 or 50,000 pound trailer is a 40 or 50,000 pound trailer, regardless of what it's carrying. You've got the weight of the trailer plus 40,000 pounds is what you can roll on the back of that truck. So if you eat up 5,000 pounds of that capacity in the trailer, because the idea is to have batteries in the trailer also, and you can hook up, and that's a supplemental power supply. That's great, but now you've reduced the amount of weight that you can carry, which now means that you make less profit per mile that you run. And you can say, well, that's great, but what about lower driving costs and all this other stuff? The brakes last longer and all this. Okay, that's fine. If you're a distributor and you're going to be shipping on average, either splitting trucks at 20,000 pounds and 20,000 pounds, or a 40,000 pound run at a time, there is an amount of weight that goes into that trailer, which means you have a set amount of material that you're expecting to show up. Now you have to schedule for lower loads. Logistically, it's a pain in the ass, but from an inventory control point of view, it's an even bigger pain in the ass. Because now you can't split trucks. A split truck now might be 15,000 pounds, not 20. So it's not good. Now I have to make an extra trip to get the same amount of material to the same dock. That's 2 trips. I mean, if you want 40,000 pounds, yeah, 60 is greater than 40 on 2 trucks. If we're talking, say, 10,000 pounds now, right? Worth of batteries. But I think you get the idea. If you're taking 2 trips, that's half the efficiency. I don't know that you're making up the other half with the efficiency of the vehicle. And there's a time efficiency issue there too. There's a lot to think about when it comes to that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of things that people don't think about. They just want to feel great about it. But again, for a pup truck in the city, it makes great sense. It's like the Amazon electric vans. They make perfectly good sense. I get it. It's smart business. For a pup truck, and for you guys that don't know, a pup truck is on the logistics side a lot. It's going to be a single axle, non-sleeper cab, smaller city truck that would be dragging around like a 35 or a 40-foot trailer going from city point to city point, not interstate travel. So anyway, I just kind of went on EVs on you guys. So didn't mean to barf all over you on that. Let's see. I was just kidding. The push of this is just a joke. I'm not anti-EV. If they make one that holds a charge, that's the reasonable range I'm in. You know what? I'm sort of in the same boat as you. I'm more like the way I look at that is keep it in the city. I don't think anybody needs to be trying to take, some kind of a National Lampoon's Vacation type trip in an EV. That's not what they're meant for. They're fun. They're just a hell of a hoot to drive or ride in. I mean, they're a thing, right? I mean, it's just, they have a party trick, and damn if they're not damn good at it, but they have their place. Let them have their place. The thing with trucks is just stupid to me. Again, unless somebody can tell me how that's going to work, I have no idea. Skid saying, yeah, EV trucks, fire trucks. I do not want my fire truck running on electricity. Please, but no, thank you. I thought I heard something about e-tanks. I don't think that was the real thing. I hope not anyway. That would be terrible, horrible idea. Sam saying steam only fell out of favor for transportation in the 30s with the Great Depression. So steam got punted when gasoline became more accessible. But there were still a lot of guys using steam engines to power stationary units. And guys were using steam tractors too. In fact, if you do a search, the guys that bring those tractors back to life, they are unimaginably powerful engines. Skid saying e-bikes and motorcycles even make more sense. The weight is so much less. I hear one solution for e-motorbikes are interchangeable batteries. Yep, they do have that. Just go from one station to another. So what they do, the battery pack is, okay, so think of it like this. They're actually a little bit smaller than this thing, a roll of toilet papers, right? So you got your, basically you got your shit roll, and what it is it's just like what you think it would look like. It's like Mr. Fusion. You open up your lid, you pull the battery pack out, that goes to the thing, you take your new battery pack, stick it in, close the latch, turn the thing on and ride off. And you can have a charging station just like you would for your for your power tools at the house, and just do that. The cool thing about, in fact, they're smaller than a roll of shit paper. They're like, I don't know, they're like the size of an old tin of crackers. They're not big at all. But you can get a halfway decent range out of them. Most of the bikes are like real range is like a 80 to 100. I mean, 100 miles is like if you live on a pancake and you're not really ripping into the thing, you can get a solid, let's say, call it 80 miles to 100 miles being the far end, no matter what. I know that Zero there was a motorcycle, an e-motorcycle manufacturer. They were talking about something like 140 miles. Livewire also had a couple of bikes that were claiming some decent range, but I don't know that anybody, it's just like the trucks. I don't know that anybody really ever landed on a realistic number that they were claiming. Pie in the sky, as far as I'm concerned. I think that real talk, you're looking at, I wouldn't bank on anything more than 100. And people that I've talked to that have ridden those e-bikes have said, look, man, I mean, they're legit. And there are levels to that game too. I forget the name of it. There's a couple of them that are they're legitimately fast super bike style bikes, but nobody's messing with them. Which is both predictable and a bit of a shame, but I don't think that I'd be a player. Hate to say it, that manufacturer Zero, I have zero interest in that company. I hate to be, I don't want to be that guy. I would love to spend a week with one, but I just don't know that it's got the, I'll put it to you like this: on a bike, when you get the light flashing on a motorcycle, it means you have a gallon of gas left, which means you've got about 30 miles of range left. When the light flashes on an EV, does it really know how much further you have to go? I think if the light flashes on an EV and you don't notice it for 5 or 10 miles, and you might only have 5 or 10 miles left to go, that's a long way away from home for a lot of folks. So, and it's not like they charge crazy fast either. They obviously, there's a smaller battery, they'll charge faster than a car, but I don't know that, again, it's just not really my not my cup of tea there. It's good saying, say 80 to 100. Yeah, I think that's where the live wires ended up being, really. X, they are recyclable, and they're recyclable in different ways. So there was a company out of California. You want to talk about a smart guy. This guy, what he was doing is, so he took the retired batteries. I forget, it might have been Tesla batteries. I can't remember exactly what it was, but he took these batteries and was using them as recharge batteries for a lawn service. Basically, he was using all electric lawn equipment, electric weed eater, electric lawn mower, electric blowers, all that kind of stuff. And apparently there's a way to set the thing up. You keep the main battery charged and you can charge stuff off of that main battery. That's one way. The other way, though, is in actual grinding up, like what you would expect, recycling. The problem with that, though, and this is a real issue, my understanding is that basically you need a hazardous materials license to fool with this stuff, because you have to remember you have in that battery some very twitchy elements. Lithium is a major part of that battery. It's like the very first name of it, right? Lithium is an incredibly twitchy element, and lithium by itself reacts with atmospheric air potentially. If it gets wet, it will react with water, and it is a exothermic reaction like you've never seen when it touches water. Just Google lithium in water or sodium in water. Also, take a look at what magnesium looks like when it burns. You have to cook it to burn it. In other words, you have to actually add high temp to that, but it's the same idea. Metals burn. In this case, when they do burn, they are incredibly exciting to see, primarily because that reaction is happening irrespective of atmospheric oxygen. And what does that mean? It means that if you pour water on a lithium fire or water on a sodium fire or water on any of those metals that will, oxygenate like that, or really, I should say, that will rapidly decompose like that, you are now feeding the fire. It's analogous to oh my God, that car's on fire. Somebody get me some gasoline, and you spray gasoline on that fire. That's the same thing as spraying water on a lithium fire. You don't do that. The best you can hope for in that reaction is that you cool everything off to the point where it can't react anymore. But fun fact, if you submerge an EV when it's on fire, it will continue to burn. It's not the best idea, but it's all they can do just to try to control the heat. I was going to say Energisia is a brand of e-motorcycles, stupid fast. Maybe that one is it. Not awful range, and the looks are Ducati or MV Agusta. Look into. I think that's the one I was thinking of. And those are the ones that, if I'm not mistaken, that's the bike that's like, it's a 200 something horsepower equivalent bike. So definitely cool. And it's appropriate we're talking about EVs, guys, because here's the deal. Dodge was supposed to have the E-Ram well before the Lightning and what anybody else's, Rivian and all the other stuff. But while I'm thinking about it, because Squirrel, out of Mexico, what is the Chevrolet? This is like out of left field, I know, but from Mexico, guys, Chevrolet has a mini Ute. I saw a guy driving one on yesterday when I was back and forth in the city. It's a small Ute, and it's cute as hell. Does anybody know what the hell that is? Anyway, if you haven't seen it, look it up. It'd make a great like courier rig, or if you need to haul the motorcycle to the track with something, I don't know. Anyway, it would make a really cool like first pickup. It's like a mini truck, but it's a Ute. Make a cool first car for somebody. Anyway, I thought it was really neat. Look that up. Sorry, Squirrel. But anyway, it's a good thing we're talking about EVs, because Ram was supposed to be the E-Ram before everybody else, and that didn't happen, at least not the way not yet anyway. But what up with the Charger, Challenger, Daytona, EV, Banshee, whatever? What's up with that? Real talk, my boys. Where's that EV at? Where you at? I ain't seeing it. I think that when this new Charger hits the playing field, it's going to be coming into the locker room powered by old gasoline. I know that there's some folks that are saying, you could have a hybrid, you could have this, you could have that. Guys, Answer me a question, and this is legit. I'm not asking this to try to prove or ask or make a point. Help me to understand something here. Remember that Hornet probe me with your stinger or whatever it was that there's this freak god awful commercial that it's like, hate it. Where's the hybrid variant of that? Where is the GHL or GLH variant of that? Can any of you guys help me in this and help me to understand where in the hell that thing is at? I'll ask it another way. Where in the world is or are any of the promises that we were told by Dodge, Mopar, Tim Kuniskis, anybody else that's willing to talk about it? Where in the flip are all of these things that we were told were coming? We had our time completely wasted with that. You can turn your Challenger into a convertible BS. We had our time completely wasted with the carbon fiber B-body Charger. Who in their right flipping mind, right? We had our time completely wasted, it seems like to me, with everything that was coming from all of the reveals from last year. And now we're coming into the exact point in time that we were told that we would have this new car. I mean, it is 2024 after all. We've got nothing. That they can't give away Hornets, by the way. Dude, where are all of these vehicles? And where is the acknowledgement and where is the lead up to this new car? I don't get it. It's annoying because I'm looking at the truck and I'm getting a little bit somewhat kind of iffy excited, but I'm not getting altogether all Twitter-pated over the idea that you would have to spend a shitload of $5 on one of these things. And talking about the car, because the truck is, well, we know a lot more about the truck than we do about the car. I mean, orders of magnitude more. You know, another car we seem to know a lot about too is the S650 Mustang. It's a little bit boxy looking, kind of like it. We know it's faster than hell. What's not to like about that? Are we going to see an honest to goodness competitor for that car? Are we really going to see a 540 plus horsepower all-wheel drive variant of this car? I mean, I take it if you can get it. That's a 10-second car, boys. I mean, real talk. So provided that it comes in at like, say, 3,800 pounds, a solid 10-second car. That's Hellcat territory on the street. But the question was, do I still miss the Hellcat? No, I don't. And one of the reasons why is that car on the street was not fun. It just did not like it on the street. Two-wheel drive with that much power. It was so limited as to what I could really do with that car and have fun with it. You can only go 150 miles an hour so many times, and it's just like it's just not a thing you just get into anymore. Anyway, Skid saying I want one with the front of an HHR hillbilly hot rod. Yeah, the one from Chevy, it's a little thing. It's adorable, but it's just a neat little runaround, and they don't sell in the States, which is some BS. If I'm have anything to say about that. Skid saying I think a new EV Charger would have fared way better if they had said there would be a V8 coming in, say, the new Challenger, Compass, Aspen, call it what you will. I agree with you on that. And I will say that even if it wasn't a V8, hey, we got this killer new inline six. 1987's coming back, baby. We're going to rip everybody's heads off with 6 cylinders and turbochargers. Dodge did it, boys. Dodge did it really well, as a matter of fact, back then. So, just saying. It's good saying Ford is doing new V8 and EV simultaneously. I know it's insanity. And the thing about Ford, guys, this is here's what people forget about Ford, or if you don't know, let me bring you into the fold when it comes to Ford. Ford, for me, was how I learned everything I know about how to make things go fast. And they would teach you, if you were willing to learn, how to go about the business of speed, of tuning, of the realities of what gasoline can manage when it comes to knock resistance. There's a lot that comes to mind. And when it comes to mind, for me, it's all Fords. So, Ford will give you an 800 horsepower Mustang and warrant it. All you got to do is when you get your car, go, hey, I need this to have the FRPP, the Ford Racing Performance Part Supercharger installed. The guy goes, no sweat, checks that off. Anything else we can get you? Financing's right around the corner. We'll have your car ready in 2 weeks. Sweet. So they wheel off your brand new pride and joy. You sign off on the dotted line. You go eat some pizza. And in 2 weeks, you've got an 800 horsepower contraption that is emissions friendly, or at least legal. But it whatever with that. But it is 800 whole-assed horsepowers. What's Direct Connection doing for their naturally aspirated brothers and sisters? Yeah, nothing. Nothing. Not a damn thing. So there's that. It just makes the prospect look a little bit grim if you're into hot rods and going fast. The Mustang is the blank slate, not the end product. Whereas with Mopar, you buy the end product. Not saying it's bad. In fact, the operating systems in the latest cars are really, really good. Transmission tuning is really good. Cam phasing, really good. Begs a question as far as why you'd want to even tune the thing. However, the reality is there's nothing for them. There's no in-market support. Skid saying, I saw a 24 Mustang GT with performance pack, 47K, automatic trans. Dodge should have had something to compete. Agreed. Problem is, what would be an HO-i6 price on a performance car? That's our problem. We don't know. When a performance pack base trim, not premium, is 49 to 50, probably around that $55,000 range, man. If it gets any higher than that, I'm just like, all right, we got to cut bait, head back to the shack, because this, there are frosty beverages waiting, and I just don't know that I just don't know that I am a player at some of those prices. Not for something that's not as utilitarian as a truck would be at the same price and with the same power. Although not the same performance, it's a truck. It's a hauling ass truck at that point. It's almost more attractive to me. Sovereign Zen, what's up, man? Say they're slow with the FRPP tune. Right, but they do have the hardware. And by the way, define slow. What is the definition of slow? Because 800 horsepower plus 4,200 pounds equals a fast car, even with the nannies in full song. So they may not be like rip your head off kind of fast, but there's still 800 horsepower in there. And I understand there's a lot of nannies that are in play with that as well. There should be. But even if the reality is that it's an adjusted 750 horsepower, it's still 750 horsepower, which is a solid 250 more than what anything that Mopar is going to be setting out that's naturally aspirated. Some are saying, sup? Someone's asking, B, thinking about getting one of the new Chargers if it comes with a Hurricane 6? I'm thinking about that, but I'm planning on the truck. So I just don't know that I'm in on the Charger as much or as excited about the Charger, frankly, as I am about the truck. Only because I feel like there's more value per dollar in the pickup truck. I'm saying if they can have 480-ish horsepower tuned, i6 torque would be appropriate. Hopefully they could get one around 50 grand. Maybe. But time will tell. And that's kind of the main thing with this, is that we'll find out one way or another, guys. It just depends on how we end up finding out what that time frame ends up looking like. But with that, guys, we're hitting our hour, so I do need to go ahead and wrap it up. Guys, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for hanging out with me. Would not do this without you. Get out there and do something cool for somebody, because chances are they need it way more than you know. And with that, guys, that is a wrap. We'll catch y'all on the next one. Adios.